Your perception is your reality. We put so much effort into changing everything around us, everything out there. But the real shift needs to happen within here. Change your mind, change your life. Simple, right? So why are so many of us still suffering? Perception shapes how people interpret events, relationships, success, and even purpose. Two people can experience the same exact moment, yet walk away with completely different conclusions because the mind filters reality through beliefs, emotions, and past experiences. This episode explores how perception forms personal reality and how shifting perspective can radically transform how you experience your life. Welcome back to Inward. I'm Katie Edmonds. This is a podcast where we slow down, turn inward, and explore what it really means to understand ourselves. I'm super stoked that you're joining me for episode 4 of this podcast. And so far, we've been talking about speaking our truth and about our identity. Today, we are diving into one of the most powerful topics. We're talking about something that quietly shapes every moment of your life, something that determines how you experience your relationships, opportunities, challenges, and even your sense of purpose. Your perception. Here's the powerful truth that we're exploring today. Your perception is your reality. Not because reality itself changes, but because the way your mind interprets the world determines what you believe is possible, what you believe about yourself, and ultimately the life that you create. Think about this for a moment. Two people can experience the exact same situation. One sees rejection. The other sees redirection. One sees failure, but the other sees feedback. One sees a closed door, and the other sees a new path opening. The situation is identical. The perception is what's different. And that difference changes everything. When we talk about perception, we're really talking about the lens through which you see the world. We all have a different lens because your lens is shaped by your past experiences, your upbringing, the beliefs you formed about yourself, and the story that you tell yourself every day. Your brain is constantly filtering reality. In fact, neuroscience tells us that the brain processes millions of bits of information every second, but your conscious mind can only handle a tiny fraction of it. So your brain filters. It decides what matters. And most of the time, it filters based on what it already believes to be true. If deep down you believe you're not good enough, you will notice every piece of evidence that confirms that belief. If you believe people can't be trusted, you'll see signs of betrayal everywhere. If you believe you're capable, resilient, and meant for something meaningful, your brain will start noticing opportunities, lessons, and growth everywhere. This is so interesting to me. Have you ever had the experience where you didn't have positive thoughts about a person and they did something and you're like, see, I told you, the guy is such an asshole. But if you have nice thoughts about a person and they do the same exact thing, you go, oh, they were probably just having a bad day. Our brain scans for evidence to make our perceptions true. This lesson in thought came to me when I had an experience with a cat, my cat. You see, my daughter and I wanted to get another cat. We had picked this cat out, and it was the most adorable cat you had ever met. His name was Mouse. And we would absolutely dote on this cat. We would look at the cat and just talk about how handsome he was and how he had all of these little qualities that made him masculine. He just looked like such a little boy. We actually talked about this. Now, one day I had dropped Mouse off at the vet to get neutered. And the vet called my cell phone a little while later and said, we're calling to let you know that your cat Mouse is indeed a girl, not a boy. And we need permission to spay her instead of neuter. And I was like, what? You've got to be kidding me. We had this cat for months. We couldn't get over it. We couldn't believe that Mouse was a girl. We had absolutely convinced ourselves that Mouse was this masculine looking cat. And it's funny to think about that now because she's definitely so feminine and dainty looking and very much a girl. I tell you this story because isn't it funny how our mind convinces us that we are right? It scans for proof and evidence that our perception is correct. Nothing is inherently bad or good, or right or wrong, or black or blue. It's however you perceive it. That is your reality. See how powerful that is? See how powerful your mind, your mindset, and your perception is? This is why two people can walk through the same life circumstances and end up with completely different lives. Their perception creates their reality. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Most people think their thoughts are facts, but your thoughts are interpretations. They're stories. And many of those stories were written years ago by experiences you had as a child, by things people said to you, by moments where you felt rejected, unseen, or misunderstood. And over time, those moments became beliefs. I'm not smart enough. I always mess things up. I'm not meant for success. And once those beliefs form, your perception begins to organize your entire world around them. You start noticing evidence that confirms them. You ignore evidence that challenges them. And suddenly it feels like those beliefs must be true. But what if they're not? What if your perception has simply been trained to see the world through a narrow lens? One of the most powerful things you can learn to do is question your perception. Not everything you think is true. Not every fear is reality. Not every negative thought deserves to be believed. Sometimes the mind is simply repeating old programming. Imagine you send a friend a text and they don't reply for hours. Your mind might instantly jump to, they're ignoring me. They're upset with me. I said something wrong. Now your emotions respond to that interpretation. Anxiety builds. You feel rejected. But what actually happened? You don't know. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they're driving. Maybe they're overwhelmed. Or their cell phone died. The event was neutral. Your perception created the emotional experience. And this happens dozens of times every single day. Your mind interprets situations instantly. And if you never pause to question those interpretations, your life becomes a reaction to stories that might not even be true. But the good news is that perception is flexible. You can train your mind to see differently. One of the most powerful shifts that I've had in my life is to have the perception that everybody's intention is pure. Everyone that I come across and everything that I experience from them, I assume that their intention is pure. They didn't intend to come across that way. I utilize my compassion. I think to myself that they responded in the way that they felt they had to, based on their perception. No perception is right or wrong. We all walk different paths in life. And I try to remember that they're showing up in their way from their perception. The most shifting question that you can ask yourself is, what else could this mean? When something doesn't go your way, instead of assuming the worst, ask yourself, what else could this mean? Maybe that job rejection is protecting you from a role that would have burned you out. Maybe that relationship ending is clearing space for someone aligned with who you are becoming. Maybe the delay in your life isn't failure. Maybe it's preparation. Your perception determines whether life feels like it's happening to you or for you. And that shift alone can transform how you experience challenges. Another important piece of this conversation is how perception shapes identity. The way you see yourself influences the choices you make every single day. If you perceive yourself as someone who always quits, you'll approach challenges with hesitation. But if you perceive yourself as someone who is resilient, growth-oriented, and capable of learning, you'll respond to setbacks differently. Identity drives our behavior, and perception shapes identity, which means if you want to change your life, sometimes you don't need to change your circumstances. You need to change how you see yourself within those circumstances. Think about the most confident people you know. They don't experience fewer obstacles. They simply interpret obstacles differently. Where others see proof that they're not good enough, confident people see feedback. Where others see embarrassment, they see learning. Where some see failure, they see iteration. It's not that their lives are easier. It's that their perception empowers them instead of limiting them. There's another layer to perception that's deeply connected to going inward, and that's awareness. Most people move through life on autopilot with zero awareness. They react to thoughts without questioning them. They accept their internal dialogue as truth. But awareness creates space between you and your thoughts. When you start observing your thoughts rather than immediately believing them, something powerful happens. You realize, I am not my thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. That means you can challenge them. You have control of them. Rewrite them, release them, and slowly your perception will begin to shift. Instead of seeing life through fear, you start seeing it through curiosity. Instead of seeing obstacles as personal failures, you begin to see them as part of growth. And instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You start asking, what is this teaching me? And that question alone can transform the emotional weight of a situation. It also helps us get away from the victim mindset and stop taking things so personally. Because when something has meaning, it becomes bearable, even powerful. This doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending everything is positive. I'm not saying that. Real growth isn't about toxic positivity. It's about choosing empowering interpretations that allow you to move forward. Pain is real. Disappointment is real. Loss is real. But the meaning you attach to those experiences determines whether they break you or shape you. Some of the most purpose-driven people in the world didn't avoid hardship. They reframed it. They turned pain into wisdom, setbacks into direction, struggle into purpose. And that's why perception is so deeply connected to discovering who you are. Because when you change how you interpret your experiences, you begin to see your life differently. Moments that once felt like proof that you weren't enough start to look like moments that were shaping you. Challenges that felt like punishment begin to look like preparation. The story changes. And when the story changes, your relationship with your life changes. So many of us walk through life believing that we are behind, that we missed our chance, that we're not the type of person who gets to live a meaningful or fulfilling life. But that belief is not reality. It's perception. And perception can be rewritten. Imagine waking up tomorrow and deciding to view your life through a different lens. Instead of asking, what's wrong with me? You ask, what is life trying to teach me? Instead of asking, why does this always happen to me? You can ask, how can I grow from this? Instead of believing I'm not capable, you begin asking, what would the version of me who is capable do right now? Because the truth is, the life you want is often on the other side of a single shift in perspective. The moment you stop seeing obstacles as stop signs and you start seeing them as stepping stones, something inside of you changes. You stop shrinking. You stop waiting. You stop assuming the worst about yourself. Going inward means becoming aware of the stories you've been telling yourself your entire life and gently asking, is this story helping me grow? Or is it keeping me small? Because the most powerful thing about perception is that you get to choose. You may not control everything that happens in your life, but you do control the meaning you give it. You control the lens through which you see yourself. You control whether your experiences become walls or doorways. And the more you practice shifting your perspective, the more your world begins to change. Opportunities become visible. Gratitude becomes easier. Resilience becomes natural. And purpose begins to reveal itself. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because you start seeing it clearly. So today, I want to leave you with a simple invitation. The next time something doesn't go your way, pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself one powerful question. What else could this mean? Because your perception is not fixed. Your perception is a choice. In the moment you choose a perspective that empowers you and expands your possibilities, your reality begins to change with it. Thank you for being here with me today. If this resonated with you, take a moment today to notice the stories your mind is telling you. Notice the lens through which you see your life. Remember, the most powerful change doesn't happen in your circumstances. It's in how you see them. I'm Katie Edmonds. Keep going inward.